It's almost as bad as calling them eyeballs. I would call them members, and I would treat them like members. Membership is, this is something that one of my students found, but subscription is a pricing strategy, membership is a mindset. Successful membership businesses focus on the long-term relationships. And you have to think about what your customers are also experiencing in other products that they come into contact with. We live in an age where people are able to sort of enjoy kind of, sorry, this is treat them as members, mass customization, right? I mean, if you buy, a Fiat 500, you can trick out the dashboard in 100 different ways and make it feel very personal to you. It is still a mass-produced product, but by the time it gets to you, it feels like a personalized car that you yourself have chosen. When you walk in, and so, I think about this and I try to apply it to the newspaper world. And Steve, when you and I were talking, I think that you sell your product at 2 different price points, right? There's a print subscription and a digital subscription, right? So that is not, that logic, and I understand why it exists, but that doesn't really mesh with the way that people experience consumer products now. Whenever you walk into Starbucks, you're pretty much walking in for a cup of coffee, okay? If you're cheap, like me, you get the tall pipe place for $1.95, okay? Other people who are not as price sensitive will walk out with a $6 venti latte, right? They're both a cup of coffee, right? One costs 3 times what the other costs. And that's because Starbucks, like just about every other business, knows that some people are price sensitive and some are not. So they have differentiated their menu to dope out who is price sensitive and who is not, because otherwise they're just leaving money on the table, right? And some can pay more than others. So my students this spring, we had a project, we were essentially kind of consultants for Los Angeles Magazine. And Los Angeles Magazine charges between $10 and $15 for a 12-issue year-long subscription. And they're charging that amount to somebody who lives in Bel Air and to a hipster who lives in Echo Park, right? Even though those 2 customers have radically different income profiles. And certainly it's the same product, so there's a logic in terms of why you would charge something different for the same product, right? But Amazon does it. Amazon will charge me something different for the same product than they charge you, because they know how price sensitive I am and what my likes are and how much I want that product. Yet here we are, basically treating everybody the same. And I think that that's a problem. And I think that others in media that we can do it this way. For example, KPCC, one of the 2 big local public radio stations here, they have my credit card on file, and they collect 12 times more revenue from me than Los Angeles Magazine does, because they signed me up for a $10 a month membership. And that's for a product that's actually free. So, and I'm a little too lazy to actually figure out and stop the automatic renewal on the credit card. But I told this to the publisher of Los Angeles Magazine. I said, what are you doing? Every time you want me to renew my subscription, you ask me to write you a check. You don't even have my credit card. But KPCC can do that because it's a membership organization. And a membership organization will tell a story about itself and tell people what the meaning is of being a member of that organization. And by the act of simply being a member, I am deriving value from that. Okay, I'm deriving some kind of value for that. And I would say that this is really important because, as I noted at the beginning, I'm reading less and less of the print Los Angeles Times, right? Unfortunately, it just doesn't fit into my morning routine the way it once did, right? But I still support that organization, and I believe in that brand because I'm a citizen of Los Angeles, and I want a strong, vibrant local newspaper, and I want to support that. But I don't want to think of my relationship with that in how much I consume, right? I want to think of my relationship with that in a deeper way, and I would hope that the Los Angeles Times would want to do that too. And that's a key distinction because that way I can watch, print copies pile up in my driveway and still feel that there's value in that. If it was just something that I saw that I consumed, I'd probably stop that subscription. Membership allows you to segment your audience into different categories, right? Just the way that Starbucks does. You can have different tiers of people who are committed to you at different levels and also have different abilities to pay. But you don't have to sell them the same product. You can actually sell them something much deeper. You can sell them a much deeper connection to what you do. You don't want to treat them all as eyeballs. And this also, I believe that forging that deeper relationship, telling the story about yourself, making sure they understand what you do. That was also referenced in the previous panel in terms of explaining the acts of journalism, the process, what has to happen in order for a really well-reported article to take place, the kind of commitment that reporters have to their job, right? Make that part of your narrative. I think the journalists have been very good about telling stories about other people and really lousy about telling stories about themselves. And the value of your brand becomes paramount. You cannot think of yourselves as purveyors of advertising. Those are just squares and rectangles. The value is in your brand, as so many other successful companies have demonstrated. The Los Angeles Times brand needs to mean something for the people of Los Angeles. And in that sense, I think if you can establish that deep, authentic connection, then you can start to think about your advertising business in a different way, right? Not in a volume-based way, not in an eyeball-based way, but in a way of something that can provide authentic connections to your members. And in that sense, if your subscribers are going to be members, your advertisers need to be some kind of partners. Partners who you can expose to your members in a meaningful fashion, and give them something that they cannot get elsewhere. So, all of this comes from, again, focusing on the brand, telling the story of the brand. And I think that local newspapers have such a compelling story to tell about themselves that they should be, shouting from mountaintops, because they're there to, protect citizens, to advocate for them, to promote local businesses and the business community, and to, insist that the citizens get the best, deserve the best, whether it's from their local politicians, on the environment, schools, and so forth. And that's a really compelling message that can be, I think, the basis of a strong membership relationship. And I'm not inventing anything new here, of course, but my point is that chasing clicks, chasing Facebook likes has subverted that mission and taken people's focus off the ball. And I see it when I talk to so many different newsrooms, and when I see how people talk to me about what success means for them, right? Now, of course, it's easy. These metrics are on your screen. They're easy to get. They're easy to understand. I can tell that 5,000 likes is better than 2,000 likes. Or that 700 page views is better than 300 page views, right? But my point is, that doesn't necessarily translate into a meaningful business. It's just simply an easily digestible metric. And the meaningful business comes from having a meaningful relationship with your audience, and your audience are those who come back. So, a lot of you, I'm sure, have an events business, have a newsletter product, have other ways of reaching your audience. And this is one of the points that my class made to the Los Angeles Magazine, is that they've got all their monetizations tied up in this product that arrives once a month. Yet the idea of Los Angeles Magazine is actually fairly powerful, and that has some editorial authority about food and can influence dining choices and all sorts of different things. And they need to actually be touching their members in a different way, throughout the week. And by this I mean that I'm not saying you should abandon Facebook or ditch your social channels. Absolutely not. But I think that the way to understand your social channels is as a mechanism for forging a deeper connection with your readers. Okay, not to simply goose page views, because I don't think that page views ultimately lead us anywhere from a monetization perspective. And if you are focused on your brand and focused on your editorial mission, your social channels become a way for you to declare that to a wider public and let them understand what your brand means that allows you then to connect with them and have them support you and feel that they're doing something good when they support you. I don't know if anybody here has ever bought a pair of Tom's shoes. I think they're also in Santa Monica. So Tom's Shoes, California company, their whole premise was that when you buy one pair, that they'll give another to someone in Africa who does not have shoes. Now, it turns out that they didn't really make good on that promise, but that's not the point of the story. They basically convinced their customers that by buying Tom, they're doing an act of social good. Okay? And that is what rocketed that company up the ranks. And I believe that newspapers have actually a more authentic and real claim to make in that department in terms of doing a social good and supporting the local community. And the other reason why this is so important is that that kind of voice, that kind of brand, and that kind of authenticity is the basis of native advertising or native content, however we want to call it. That advertisers really want to be able to connect with other brands that tell something that can communicate a certain meaning to the audience, right? It is not simply space, demographics, eyeballs, or something like that. And this I get a lot from my 20-year-old students. The way I see the way that they interact with brands, the way that they relate to them, what they crave, the meaning that they attribute to brands, which, cynical me, I think, like, are you serious? That's just a large, consumer goods company. Why do you have such warm, fuzzy feelings for it? But no, these brands have actually figured that out. They listen to these customers, these young customers, and they tailor their message accordingly. There are a number of companies out there who do this, and I always look for examples of this, and not all of them are in the news space, and I think it's important to look beyond the news space. One that does it in the news space that does it pretty well is the Voice of San Diego. Now, I don't know how many of you know them, but they're a digital-only nonprofit news source in San Diego, but their whole business is based on membership. It is part of their message from when you hit the homepage. It is consistent throughout. It's very much like public radio, but they have built that into their business model, and their members are very engaged. Because those members really do feel like that they belong, they will go to events, they will turn out for other things, they will support some of the partners that Voice of San Diego has, and this was so successful that the publisher, Mary Brown, built this membership model using Salesforce and got a grant from the Knight Foundation to make it available to others. And there's a lot of understanding touch points where your customers are, how many times you have to connect with them before you can ask them for money. It runs off of MailChimp, basically a combination of MailChimp and Salesforce. But that's recurring revenue that comes back that is more than just a numbers game. It's about people who have declared their connection and their commitment to this brand. Another interesting editorial outfit is Atlas Obscura, which sort of bills itself as the National Geographic for the 21st century. This was started by the former editor of Slate. They basically use editorial content as a way of offering sort of unique experiences to their readers in the form of trips. That is, that they report on strange things from all over the globe, and then they help take their readers there. They have a platform for their readers to contribute and connect with them, so that there's a real sort of crowdsourced element to it. And the last one you might have heard of is Refinery 29. I recently had the chief revenue officer from Refinery 29 come talk to my class, and the way that she described their success with advertisers is it all emanates from having an authentic, consistent voice across all channels about women, about body image, about all of these things that allows them to talk to this audience in a real sincere way that then allows them to do so much with advertisers because they are such a trusted, consistent, authentic purveyor of a certain right?
We better.
Our lives. As a member of Congress, Leon Panetta blocked offshore oil drilling in California. staff to Bill Clinton. He helped balance the federal budget and pave the way for the longest and broadest economic expansion in modern American history. Bill Clinton, as you may recall, is the first and only president since Eisenhower to leave his successor with a budget surplus. As Secretary of Defense, Secretary Panetta helped wind down 2 wars, allowed gays to serve openly in the military, and cleared the way for women to serve in combat positions. And as Director of the CIA, he oversaw a broad challenge to Al-Qaeda that included the operation to kill Osama bin Laden. Because of my friend Leon Panetta, our coasts are clearer, our economy is healthier, and our security has been protected. That is no small feat. I had the great honor of working with Secretary Panetta on his memoirs, and in addition to an honor, it was a wonderful pleasure, as it is today, for me to be able to introduce him to you, ladies and gentlemen, Secretary Leon Panetta.
You joke the Secretary Panetta, I'm going to lie down on the couch, but we're going to. So we're looking forward today for months, and now we get here and there's like nothing to talk about. I don't know what the hell we're talking about. Washington's fun. All right, so it's hard to know which order to take these scandals in, but let me ask you. Trump, obviously, the question of Trump's relationships with Russia are very much on the spotlight. Now we have Mueller still runs the special counsel. I literally 2 minutes ago got a note. The Washington Post is running a story saying that Trump has been a person of special interest in the investigation. There's a million questions I could ask about this, but if we could start maybe with this conversation that he had with the Russian diplomats, the Foreign Affairs Secretary and the ambassador the other day. I know from our experience that the president clearly does have the right to declassify material, and presumably, I'm assuming you agree that they probably therefore didn't do anything illegal there. But what is your sense of the process, if any, that has gone through to the decision to, you're waiting to make a decision to give the Russians that kind of information, whether you think it's, forget whether it's legal for a moment, whether it's wise to have done so?
Well, Jim, first of all, good to see you. My thanks to all of you. I've spoken to this group during various parts of my political career, but I've always had a great deal of respect for the work that you do. I'm glad to see that there are people in the room still to talk to, because I know the challenges that all of you face. But let me just say that I hope all of you will continue to do the great work that you do, because I think it is critical to our democracy to have newspapers that can present fair and objective news to their readership. Our democracy doesn't function without information and without the kind of careful presentation of the news that has to be done at a time when we're besieged by the internet and by all kinds of shows on television, 24-hour news shows that have their own slant on the news. So I hope you'll stick with it, and I hope you'll continue to be able to make our local newspaper something that will always be there for me and for my children. So thank you for doing that. On the issue of Trump presenting classified information to a foreign adversary of ours, look, I don't have to tell you all that intelligence is critical to the ability of the president and the leadership of our country to be able to protect our security. No president can effectively protect this country unless they get good, accurate, reliable intelligence on what our adversaries are up to. That intelligence is not easy to get. It requires a tremendous amount of effort to get that intelligence. You've got to You got to go out and recruit sources, recruit spies to be able to get that information, because in order to get good intelligence, you've got to have spies who are willing to work in some very dangerous places, namely usually close to those that they're trying to determine what they're up to, enemies of the United States. I will tell you, in terms of the operations that I was involved with at the CIA in going after Al-Qaeda's leadership in Pakistan, that we would never have been able to do that. You can put as many drones in the air as you want, but you can never really do effective targeting without people on the ground or telling you where those targets are. And they put their lives on the line. It is tough business. So, when you get intelligence from those kinds of very sensitive sources that are out there, you really have to protect them. Because if you just simply say, you know, we got this intelligence from so-and-so who's out there in the middle of Yemen or wherever, it isn't going to be long before that person winds up dead. And so we are very protective of that kind of information. In particular, obviously, the President of the United States should be protective of that intelligence. I mean, you can share, you know, at least information about the threats that, you know, we're concerned about without having to give away the intelligence that leads you to that kind of information. So, I don't know, I guess it was McMaster who said that Trump was not fully aware of the sensitivity of the information. And that may very well be true. If that was true, then the staff to the president failed in their job to fully inform the president about the importance of protecting that kind of classified information. Because the danger is that once he presents that information, and if he does tie it to potential sources that are out there, the Russians are not dumb about this stuff. It'll only take them a very short period of time to be able to pin down where those sources are located. And then those sources, obviously, are going to be jeopardized. I imagine that Israel is very concerned about, if Israel was the source of that information, that they would be very concerned about the potential impact on their sources. Mossad, or their intelligence operation, is a group that we work very closely with at the CIA. And so I know how sensitive their sources are, because their sources happen to be in some pretty dangerous places. So I think it was a terrible, terrible mistake to allow the president to reveal that kind of information. It clearly damages our potential sources. I mean, we rely on Israel, again, if it is Israel, we rely on them and other intelligence agencies in other countries to give us information. We share information. We get information about threats, we share that with the British and the French and others. And that's the nature of how you gather intelligence. And if they're going to be concerned about presenting sensitive intelligence to the United States because they don't know if their sources are going to be jeopardized, then it begins to hurt not only the intelligence we present to the president, it hurts our national security. So, terrible mistake. Shouldn't have happened. The fact that it did happen does not, I think, at this point, involve, as far as I know, any violation of law, but it involves endangering our national security. And for a president of the United States to do that, I think it represents a very dangerous indication that the president is not being properly briefed or staffed in order to protect that kind of information from going out.
If you imagine you're back at CNA, you send a subordinate to meet with his or her Russian counterpart to talk about Syria and ISIS. If you learned that that subordinate had released classified information to his or her Russian counterpart, what would your response be?
Fire.
Fine. So the only thing that makes this different is this, the president. All right, case closed. What is that have the same, I mean, there's sort of political reverberations of this because, of course, whatever Trump's fascination with Russia, it seems to cloud a lot of his decision-making. But would this have had the same national security implications if he had released this information to the British or the French, someone who we had an ongoing, less adversarial relationship with?
Well, again, if he was meeting with British intelligence or meeting with British leadership, you still have to be careful about the information you present, because you're just not sure what that leader will do with that information.
Right.
And the fact is, look, you can present that information based on the kind of threats we're concerned about. I mean, you can say, these are the threats, that we've been informed are out there, and we want to work with you to protect against those threats, without revealing sources, without revealing, where that intelligence came from.
Although my understanding is that even if he did not, and of course they did not, release the source of the information, that the information itself may make it easy to determine who the source is.
Yeah, if your information is that Iran is developing a nuclear weapon at one of their underground sites, and that's the intelligence you're providing, sensitive, classified information. Well, hell, then, what you immediately do if you're Iran and you get any indication that it's happening is you go to where that site is and you go after everybody who's there. And you eventually find out where the source is. So it endangers their life.
Right. Even without explicitly.
Yeah, no, exactly. So it's just, in the intelligence arena, this is something that just is not done because of the fact that you put lives at risk. Because everybody, in many ways, the problem in 9/11 was that everybody was stovepiped. Everybody was doing their own thing, different intelligence agencies, FBI, and others, and there wasn't really an effort to work together and share information and work together to go after our enemies. That changed after 9/11. A lot of changes were made. A lot of intelligence sources were developed. The FBI developed intelligence sources within the country, and they developed a whole counterintelligence capability that frankly wasn't there before 9/11, and Bob Mueller is largely responsible for having done that. So he is, without question, the very best choice that could have been made to take over as special counsel. Now, we've been subjected to a lot of stories, a lot of rumors, a lot of things coming off the Hill, coming out of the White House, a lot of churning that's gone on with regards to all of the information that's involved in all of these issues, particularly with regards to the Russian investigation. I will tell you one thing, Bob Mueller is not going to do that. He'll report, obviously, if he has to the Hill and to the committees. He'll probably want to do it in closed session. He is a prosecutor who will try to gather the evidence and the facts, and then make a decision as to whether or not any prosecutions ought to be brought. He is very careful, and he will not do anything to jeopardize his case. And for members of Congress, that can be very upsetting, because they've been basically playing this issue out in the newspapers and in the media almost every day. So there are going to be some frustrated members of Congress as a result of the appointment of Bob Mueller.
He's just quiet for a while.
But I also think, for the sake of finding the truth, which is what this should be all about, for the sake of finding the truth, they couldn't have picked a better person to do that. And it It may take some time. He is extremely careful. He will use his people very carefully to go after every bit of evidence. And so, I suspect that we're looking at an investigation that could take 6 to 9 months.
So you don't think years though?
In many ways, what I would call a tale of two presidencies. One is, on the national security side, I have a lot of respect for the people that he's appointed to the national security team. I've worked with McMaster. I've worked with Jim Mattis, who was my head of CENTCOM during the time I was secretary. Worked with John Kelly, who was my military aide at the Pentagon. Worked with Jim Coates, who's DNI, Director of National Intelligence. Worked with Mike Pompeo. He's got some good people. Rex Tillerson I've never worked with, but I have a lot of respect for people that work with him. I'd say he's a good man. So I think he's got a good national security team, and he's been willing to listen to them, which is also important. So, and as a result of that, a lot of the crazy positions he took during the campaign, he's backed off of. Whether it's to get rid of NATO, tear up this, do that, he's basically walked back from a lot of those positions. And I think in large measure because of his national security team. He also took the action in Syria, which I thought was important to do, a limited attack based on the use of chemical weapons. So I feel a lot better about, the people that are on the national security team, the fact that he relies on them. On the domestic side of the ledger, it really concerns me because I don't know that the quality of individual is there. I think, as a matter of fact, I think the White House is a place where there are too many competing centers of power. You can't run the White House with a bunch of people who are titled advisors or consuls to the president and don't carry any portfolio. All they do is basically run around and they talk and they go into meetings and they give their views and they have no responsibilities. It's a terrible way to run the White House. I know, because I became chief of staff at the time. When Bill Clinton asked me to become chief of staff, I said, "Are you kidding?" I knew how bad things were at the White House. And I'll never forget, after I took the job, I went to Mac McCartney and I said, "Mac, I'd like to see an organization chart for the White House." And he said, "I don't believe I have one of those." And so the White House had people who were carrying these titles. And they'd go into meetings in the Oval Office. There'd be 50 people in the Oval Office. And they'd all bullshit, get nothing done. So, my approach to it was I had to establish a chain of command. And I think that's the only way you can run the White House. I think if you're going to be chief of staff, you've got to have one chief of staff. And everybody else should respond to that chief of staff. You've got to have a set of people that you're responsible to. You can't just wander around. So I think the concern I have is that that organization is not there. And it isn't providing the support the president needs when he's dealing with these issues. So, he's going off and he tweets and does this and does that. And he says things without having somebody basically say, "Mr. President, you can't say that." Somebody's got to be a grown-up in terms of the operation. And that's not there now. And so you've got somebody who's erratic, impulsive, saying the things that he's saying, and creating a very dangerous situation for the office of the presidency. So I think it's critical that if this president's going to survive, it becomes the day-to-day thing right now. But if this president's going to survive, he's going to have to reorganize that part of the White House. Otherwise, I think he'll be in danger. Because there is no there. So, when these stories come out about, meeting with the FBI director, for God's sakes, the general, the consul to the president, or the chief of staff, said you don't meet with the FBI director. You don't. When I was chief of staff, Bill Clinton said he wanted to meet with the FBI director. I said no. You don't do that. The FBI director is independent. And if you're going to be meeting with the FBI director, that's a dangerous moment. Because the FBI director is doing investigations, they're doing, looking at different issues, and you do not want to be seen as in any way affecting that kind of investigation. That's the reason the FBI director is appointed for 10 years, to be independent. So, not having somebody who says to the president, you are not going to meet with the FBI director. Somebody who says, regardless of your concerns about what's happening with the Russian investigation, that investigation has to be separate. And it has to operate separately. Mr. President, you got too damn much to do just dealing with the issues that you want to get done in the Congress. So there isn't that kind of discipline. There isn't that kind of control about what's going on. And I think the result is you've got a guy who has, no experience, no political experience, no governing experience, basically a real estate developer who thinks that he can just sit down with anybody and bully them to drop an investigation. It's crazy. He's not operating in New York City. He's operating in the capital of the United States. So there's just got to be, more discipline there. And I don't know whether that's going to happen. He's 70 years old. Is he really going to change the way he operates? I don't know. But I think for the sake of the country, he absolutely has to do that.
I have in the New Yorker, which I think dates back to 2002, maybe? Maybe.
To 2009.
9? Really? Okay. All right. Just to put us in the mood for Jonathan, she says that his style, that has come to be his signature, is a postmodern scrapbook of divergent references that run with the internal logic of a dream. And she uses an example, a mole that he describes from Mole Las Tias.
Yes.
The mole negro he wrote is so dark that it seems to suck the light out of the airspace around it, spicy as a novella and bitter as tears. Further, it appears so glossy and rich that I'm always tempted to test its consistency by stabbing an index finger into it, and the resulting stain lingers as long as the empurpled digits of patriotic Iraqi voters. Whenever young people talk to me about wanting to be the next Jonathan Gold, the things they focus on have nothing to do with the greatness of his criticism, which is the extraordinary writing ability, which I find really fascinating. You're welcome. You're welcome. So what I love about Jonathan is his, and we spend a fair amount of time together, he's always eating. Jonathan's life is the life of, as other people have put it, a flaneur. He is less a reporter than someone who walks through life consuming, not just food, but just culture and information. So let's use an example. Where we're going tonight?
We're going to Michael's.
Okay, so we're going to dinner, after the dinner, and Michael's is?
Probably, it's one of the 2 restaurants associated with the birth of California cuisine in the 1970s.
So a restaurant that's been around for 40 years. You made the reservation in whose name?
The name of my high school geometry teacher.
And what will happen when we walk in?
Either they're well trained enough to do nothing, or some people have wine poured
or the panic will be written all over their faces as they gulp. They gulp to hold it in. How many of you saw the documentary on Mr. Gold, City of Gold? Truly an extraordinary documentary. The director, Laura Gabbard, is super, just unbelievably talented. And one of my favorite moments is this moment when Jonathan walks into one of Chef Ludo Lefebvre's restaurant and the haunting, panicked look in his eyes just reveals what it must be like to be a restaurateur and be on the other side. So that being said, do you ever have the experience of just going out to eat?
Oh yeah, all the time. You know, when I'm not reviewing, I'm always at like the Vietnamese place where somebody will just slap a bowl of pho on the table and grunt at me and go away. I was talking to high school assembly a few days ago at San Juan, a few blocks from here, and somebody said that their sister was a waiter at this restaurant that I reviewed last year. And that when they saw that I came in, they made a panic call to the chef who was at his kid's Little League game, which he left, sped over to the restaurant. My waitress was apparently the best waitress at the restaurant, and she was taking off all her other tables. That there was apparently a special suggested to me that nobody else in the restaurant was getting. And the kid who said this was like very smug. And my response was, but I gave the restaurant a mediocre review. If they had that much time and they got all of that together and they made everything in triplicate, and they did everything that they could, and it was still not good, then it almost proves that doesn't matter so much, or except in a very few cases it doesn't.
So, given that, have you ever done a real takedown of a restaurant? And if so, what did that feel like afterwards?
I mean, when I was starting out this, when I was in my early mid-20s, I mean, I loved doing takedowns. It was fun. I mean, you know, going to a restaurant like CHENE's, which has been the biggest restaurant in Hollywood for 50 years, and pointing out that the chili tasted like a can of Denison's, and the string beans came from a can. It was like, it was like going hunting. It was like, you know, sticking a spear into the flank of an elephant or something. But
as you aged,
I shut down a lot of restaurants. Sometimes I meant to shut them down. Sometimes I didn't. There's a tradition in London, especially, of where the critics almost compete to write the nastiest review of the worst restaurant. And although negative reviews are fun to read, easy to write, and readers love them, I don't take that much pleasure in it. I mean, because if you write a bad review of like the next Batman movie, Warner Brothers is going to open its doors on my head. That's without question. But it's food writing and possibly dramatic criticism are the two things where you can put, you know, 50 people out of work on the basis of a whimsical aesthetic opinion. And I'm not afraid to do it, and I have done it. I mean, I wrote a review of a Gordon Ramsay restaurant that was so negative that it was basically reprinted on the front page of the Independent in London. I take into consideration a lot of things before I do. Plus, when you're a restaurant critic, you have to go to restaurants a lot. I'll go 4 or 5 times before I review a place. And if I'm writing a bad review, I have to be absolutely sure of every single detail, which means going to a restaurant you really don't like 7 times, which is a lot of commitment.
So now that your beat at the Los Angeles Times is quite different than it was when you were either at the Weekly or at Gourmet Magazine, and there are 52 weeks in the year, 52 reviews, and you're going many times, we can do the math. What you don't choose to review is in its own way a review.
Probably. I mean, I'm not, unlike my predecessors, I'm completely uninterested in the 17 best Italian restaurants in Brentwood. I mean, it just doesn't interest me. It's not bad enough to write a bad review of it. It's not interesting enough to like think about for an entire week. And if I ran, I don't know, a hotel dining room facing the beach in Santa Monica, I would probably be pretty mad that I was the critic of the Times. But Los Angeles is a huge city, and we have a bigger Mexican population than Guadalajara does. We've got more Koreans than any place outside Korea. We've got a Chinese community that you can literally drive in for 20 miles without leaving. We've got enormous communities of Japanese, of Indians, of Central Americans, and I'm not just writing for the rich guy. I'm not writing for the traditional audience that a restaurant critic at a paper the Los Angeles Times would ordinarily write for. I'm writing for everybody because we're read by everybody.
How many of you here are associated with papers that have restaurant critics? That have food sections or columns about food? What is the value, do you think, of having a restaurant critic in a paper at this point in time?
That's a hard question, but people are interested in restaurants not just as places to eat, but as cultural institutions, of things that communicate values, that communicate a worldview in a way that almost nothing else does. That it's as cultural criticism in a way. It could be, although I don't consider it's not necessarily an art form, it does address a lot of art principles. And criticism of food, I think, in its way is as valid as, a book column or a movie column or a column of the local ballet troupe. I would be the last person to say that newspapers should have restaurant critics and not dance critics. They should have both, and almost nobody has dance critics anymore, really, including us.
When we were sitting at the table, one of our fellow diners asked you about the different nature of people that you interact with, from those that are subscribers of the paper and those that consume what you have to say digitally. Could you share what you were talking about? Sure.
And a lot of the people who read the paper online do actually subscribe to us online. I mean, we do have, we do have a firewall, and I do get, complaints all the time about, from people, hey, I can't read your story anymore. It's like, Wait until next month, it's only a week away.
So they wait a month and then it gets released?
Yeah, I mean, you get a certain amount of articles you can read a month, and then the paywall comes down.
So the paper is using you as a commodity to encourage subscription?
Well, yeah, I would assume it would use all of its writers. It would use all of its content as a way of encouraging subscriptions, including, you know, the advice columns and the comic strips. But there are times when for one reason or another, my column will run like 1 week in print and then the next week online, or the other way around. And I notice when I look at the letters and I look at the people who are reacting that the online readers and the print readers have almost completely different concerns. They write differently, they care about different things. You can easily separate them out as a group. And I think as a writer, one of the responsibilities is to be able to bridge that divide, to you know, obviously the people who read things, you know, in paper tend to be older, tend to be more suburban rather than center city, tend to be probably whiter, but I'm not sure why that is, but it seems like it's, even though it's the same column, it seems like it's two different products.
That's interesting. You cook. You're an avid home cook.
I am indeed.
Did you cook tonight before you came?
I did not cook, but I usually cook for my family before I go out. But
Jonathan is the cook of the family. How does cooking inform your criticism? Do you think that it adds something to what you have to bring, the fact that you are so well versed as a home cook yourself?
possibly. I mean, there was a period in the 80s where a lot of people going into restaurant writing and food writing were products of professional kitchens. And you would read the columns and they would tell you, you know, all about how many minutes that demi-glace had reduced, or they would say, or they would talk about a dish was supposed to have tarragon and the chef was using chervil. And they were doing all this technical stuff. And it was rarely things that you really wanted to know about. I mean, I was the restaurant critic for a while at Gourmet, which was where the mandate of the editor before Ruth Reichel, who I came in with, was to her restaurant critics that you really should be able to cook the dish from your description of it. I don't think that's necessary at all. And yet, the very act of going to, you know, 2 or 3 farmers markets a week and knowing what's in season, knowing what growers are doing, like the absolutely killer parsnips, and how your favorite farmer is suddenly growing salsa feed. I mean, you understand why there's suddenly salsa feed on the last 6 places you go to. It's because somebody good is growing it. When you travel and you bring things back and you read cookbook and you have some idea how a dish is supposed to exist in its Platonic form, although I don't believe in authenticity, but that's another question. Then you have some idea of how to treat what's presented to you on a plate. And especially the idea when cooking isn't different, as it is, frankly, at 9 restaurants out of 10, you know it, it's almost insulting. Plus there's the idea of like, when I cook for my family before I go out, if the meal that I've gone out for is not as good as the meal I've left behind, they're really sore.
Talk to us a little bit about the role of the media, both the mainstream media and also citizen journalists and others who are active in social media on civic engagement.
Well, I am pleased to always speak to our students who win the awards and at the schools about the importance of the media, because you bring the stories, you bring the facts to the attention of all of us. And then it's from your facts and the stories you write, the stories you publish, that I try to engage them in critical thought about the positions that people have in the paper, why and what may be their motivations, what's the end result. So it's really your work that starts the conversation and starts the critical thinking and starts students and young leaders to think about the world they're in. Without your reporting, we would not know what's going on. And so while we may have different opinions about a report or a paper or an article or a slant, alleged slant, the point is it's still important and worth having. And I worry that media will be somehow edited or censored or not available. And that's how we get our information. It's the first thing I talk about every Wednesday when the justices come to my chamber. We discuss cases for the next 2 hours. We talk about what's in the media. We talk about who wrote it. We talk about their information. We talk about other articles covering it. We are all media addicts. And every lawyer, every judge I know just about is a media news addict. We are reading you. We're talking about you. We are following you.
What should the people in this room?
First place, UC Berkeley, the Daily Californian, Winston Cho. Sports Game Story, High Schools, second place, Archbishop Reardon High School, the Crusader, Herrick Wu. First place, Granite Bay High School, the Gazette, Will Anderson. 2-year colleges, second place, Santa Ana College, Eldon, Jorge Campos. First place, El Camino College, the Union, Eric Ramos. 4-year colleges, second place, CSU Bakersfield, the runner, Selena Perez. First place, CSU Fullerton, Daily Titan, Haley M. Aaron Park. 2-year colleges, second place, El Camino College, the Union, Jackie Romano. First place, Fresno City College, Rampage, Larry Valenzuela. 4-year colleges, second place, UC Berkeley, the Daily Californian, Philip Downey. 4-year colleges, first place, CSU Fullerton, Daily Titan, Patrick Doe. Online General Excellence, high schools, second place, Monte Vista High School, El Estoc. First place, Harvard Westlake School, The Chronicle. 2-year colleges, second place, Contra Costa College, The Advocate. First place, Skyline Colleges, The Skyline View. 4-year colleges, second place, UC Berkeley, The Daily Californian. First place, UCLA, Daily Bruin. Congratulations to all of our campus winners. Daily and weekly newspapers, investigative reporting. Weeklies 11,000 and under. Second place, Petaluma Argus Courier, Eric Ginnick now. First place, The Recorder, Cheryl Miller. Weeklies 11,001 to 25,000. Second place, Mountain View Voice, Mark Nowak. First place, North Coast Journal, Linda Stransberry. Weeklies 25,001 and over. Second place, Palo Alto Weekly, Elena Kevani. First place, Metro Silicon Valley, Jennifer Wadsworth. Dailies 15,000 and under. Second place, Record Searchlight, Elena Schulman. place, Visalia Times Delta and Tulare Advance Register, Jim Hoke, Juan Villa, Luis Hernandez, and Kaylee Cederloff. Dailies 15,001 to 35,000. Second place, the Desert Sun staff. First place, the Desert Sun, Brett Kelman, Gustavo Solis, and Omar Ornelas. Dailies 35,001 to 150,000. Second place, the Fresno Bee, Tim Sheehan and Mark Benjamin. First place, the Fresno Bee, Andrea Costello, Barbara Anderson, and Bonilla Lee. Dailies 150,001 and over. Second place, Los Angeles Times, David S. Cloud. First place, Los Angeles Times staff. Environmental reporting, weeklies, 4,300 and under. Second place, The Arc, Gretchen Lang and Elliot Carmen. First place, Half Moon Bay Review, Karina Woldenberg and Bill Murray. Weeklies, 4,301 to 11,000. Second place, The Davis Enterprise, Felicia Alvarez. First place, Petaluma Argus Courier, Eric Ganekow. Weeklies, 11,001 to 25,000. Second place, North Coast Journal, Thaddeus Greenson. First place, North Bay Bohemian, Steph Holbrook. Weeklies, 25,001 and over. Second place, Sacramento News and Review, Alistair Bland. First place, Palo Alto Weekly, Sue Dremen. Dailies, 15,000 and under. Second place, Monterey Herald, James Herrera. First place, Monterey Herald, Jim Johnson. Dailies, 15,001 to 35,000. Second place, the Desert Sun, Sammy Roth. First place, the Desert Sun, Ian James. Dailies, 35,001 to 150,000. Second place, the Press Democrat, Derek Moore. First place, the Los Angeles Daily News, the Los Angeles Daily News staff. Dailies, 150,001 and over. Second place, the San Francisco Chronicle, John King. First place, Los Angeles Times, Jack Dolan. Environmental reporting, drought, fire, weeklies, 11,000 and under. Second place, Sierra Star, Brian Wilkinson. First place, Big Bear Grizzly, Kathy Porty and Brady Enger. Weeklies, 11,001 and over. Second place, Sacramento News and Review, Alistair Bland. First place, Monterey County Weekly staff. Dailies, 15,000 and under. Second place, Porterville Recorder, Rick Elkins. First place, The Union, Teresa Yin-Mei-Lu, Laura Mahaffey. Dailies, 15,001 to 35,000. Second place, The Desert Sun, Ian James and Zoe Myers. First place, The Desert Sun, Ian James, Sammy Roth, and Jay Calderon. Dailies, 35,001 and over. Second place, The Sacramento Bee, Dale Kassler, Ryan Savalo, and Philip Reese. First place, the Bakersfield, California, and Bakersfield, California staff. 11,000 and under. Second place, St. Helena Star, Tom Stockwell. First place, the Selma Enterprise Kingsburg recorder, Laura Brown. Weeklies, 11,001 and over. Second place, Santa Barbara Independent, Matt Ketterman. First place, Santa Maria Sun, Brenna Swanson. Dailies, 15,000 and under. Second place, the Napa Valley Register, Howard Yoon. First place, Santa Maria Times, April Charlton and Logan Anderson. Dailies, 15,001 to 35,000. Second place, the Tribune, Lindsay Holden. First place, the Desert Sun, Gustavo Solis. Dailies, 35,001 and over. Second place, the Press Democrat, Guy Kovner. First place, the San Francisco Chronicle, Tara Dugan. Enterprise News Stories or Series, Weeklies, 4,300 and under. Second place, Mount Shasta Herald, Paul Borger. First place, American Canyon Eagle, Noble Brinkerhoff. Weeklies, 4,301 to 11,000. Second place, Petaluma Argus Courier, Eric Yanakau. First place, the Sonoma Index Tribune, the Sonoma Index Tribune staff. Weeklies, 11,001 to 25,000. Second place, Palos Verdes Peninsula News, Ed Pio, Megan Barnes, and Cynthia Washika. First place, Santa Maria Sun, Joe Payne. Weeklies, 25,001 and over. Second place, Metro Silicon Valley, Jennifer Wadsworth. First place, Sacramento News and Review, Janelle Bittker. Dailies, 15,000 and under. Second place, The Union, Alan Rickbalemi. First place, Merced Sun Star, Monica Velez. Dailies, 15,001 to 35,000. Second place, The Tribune, Stephanie Finnecane and Caitlin Leslie. First place, The Desert Sun, Rosalie Murphy, Jay Calderon, and Robert Hopwood. Dailies, 35,001 to 150,000. Second place, The Modesto Bee, Garth Stapley. First place, the Press Democrat, the Press Democrat staff. Dailies, 150,001 and over. Second place, the Orange County Register, Charleston Walker, David Bracken, and Jonathan Brown. First place, Los Angeles Times staff. Writing, Weeklies, 4,300 and under. Second place, The Arc, Deidre McCrowan. First place, The Arc, Gretchen Lang. Weeklies, 4,301 to 11,000. Second place, Del Norte Triplicate, Jessica Sinar. First place, the Sonoma Index Tribune, Jason Walsh. Weeklies, 11,001 to 25,000. Second place, Palisades News, Laurel Busby. First place, North Bay Bohemian, Tom Gugola. Weeklies, 25,001 and over. Second place, Metro Silicon Valley, Jennifer Wadsworth. First place, Sacramento News and Review, Dave Kempa. Dailies, 15,000 15,000 and under, second place, Monterey Herald, Claudia Melendez Salinas. First place, Appeal Democrat, Steve Miller. Dailies, 15,001 to 35,000, second place, Marin Independent Journal, Paul Liberatori. First place, The Record, Alex Breitler. Dailies, 35,001 to 150,000, second place, San Francisco Examiner, Michael Howerton. First place, the Bakersfield Californian, Jennifer herself, and Robert Price. Dailies, 150,001 and over, second place, the Sacramento Bee, Cynthia Hubert. First place, Los Angeles Times, Christopher Goffard. Profile feature story, weeklies, 4,300 and under. Second place, The Recorder, Scott Graham. First place, The Arc, Heather Lobdell and Elliot Carlin. Weeklies, 4,301 to 11,000. Second place, Petaluma Argus Courier, Hannah Bosong. First place, Twin Cities Times, Derek Wilson. Weeklies, 11,001 to 25,000. Second place, Pleasanton Weekly, Meredith Bauer. First place, the Palisades News, Laurel Busby. Weeklies, 25,001 and over. Second place, Good Times, Steve Palapy. First place, Chico News Review, Ken Smith. Dailies, 15,000 and under. Second place, Desert Dispatch, Jose Quintero. First place, the Napa Valley Register, Sean Scully. Dailies, 15,001 to 35,000. Second place, Santa Cruz Sentinel, Wallace Bain. First place, Ventura County Star, Amanda Covarrubias. Dailies, 35,001 to 150,000. Second place, the Press Democrat, Paul Payne. First place, the Fresno Bee, Andrea Castillo. Dailies, 150,001 and over. Second place, the Sacramento Bee, Cynthia Hubert. Dailies, 150,001 and over. First place, San Francisco Chronicle, Jonathan Kaufman. Non-profile feature story, weeklies, 4,300 and under. Second place, The Recorder, Ben Hancock. First place, The Arc, Deidre McCochran and Elliot Carlin. Weeklies, 4,301 to 11,000. Second place, Petaluma Argus Courier, Hannah Bosing. Weeklies, 4,301 to 11,000. First place, San Marino Outlook, Eric Nolan. Weeklies, 11,001 to 25,000. Second place, Santa Maria Sun, Joe Payne. North Coast Journal, Thaddeus Greenson. Weeklies, 25,001 and over. Second place, Runyon Gazette, Emily Thornton. First place, Santa Barbara Independent, Richie DiMaria. Dailies, 15,000 and under. Second place, Merced Sun Star, Rob Parsons. Auburn Journal, Michael Mott. Dailies, 15,001 to 35,000. Second place, Santa Barbara News Press, Scott Steepleton. Blue. Dailies 35,001 to 150,000, second place, East Base Times, Matthias Gaffani. First place, San Francisco Examiner, Jonah Owen Lamb. Dailies 150,001 and over, second place, Los Angeles Times, Cindy Carcamo. First place, San Jose Mercury News, Tracy Siepel. Lifestyle coverage, weeklies, 4,301 to 11,000, second place, Ledger Dispatch. First place, Santa Ynez Valley News. Weeklies 11,001 to 25,000, second place, Brentwood Press. First place, Pleasanton Weekly. Dailies 15,000 and under, second place, the Napa Valley Register. First place, Visalia Times, Delta and Tulare Advance Register. Dailies 15,001 to 35,000, second place, the Desert Sun. First place, Santa Barbara News Press. Dailies 35,001 and over, second place, Los Angeles Times. First place, San Francisco Chronicle. Arts and entertainment coverage. Weeklies, 4,300 and under. Second place, Sierra Star. First place, the Intermountain News. Weeklies, 4,301 to 11,000. Second place, Del Mar Times. First place, the Sonoma Index Tribune. Post Journal. Weeklies, 25,001 and over. Second place, Los Angeles Downtown News. First place, Metro Silicon Valley. Dailies, 15,000 and under, second place, Visalia Times, Delta and Tulare Advance Register. First place, the Napa Valley Register. Dailies, 15,001 to 35,000, second place, the Tribune. First place, Antelope Valley Press. Dailies, 35,001 and over, second place, the San Diego Union Tribune. First place, Los Angeles Times. Specials section, weeklies, 4,300 and under, second place, Feather River Bulletin. First place, The Ark. 4,301 to 11,000, second place, the Davis Enterprise. First place, Elk Grove Citizen. Weeklies 11,001 to 25,000, second place, San Clemente Times. First place, San Francisco Business Times. 5,001 and over, second place, Grunion Gazette. First place, Monterey County Weekly. Dailies, 15,000 and under, second place, Appeal Democrat. First place, The Union. Dailies 15,001 to 35,000, second place, the Desert Sun. First place, the Record. Dailies 35,001 to 150,000. Second place, the Fresno Bee. First place, the Bakersfield, California. Dailies 150,001 and over. Second place, San Francisco Chronicle. First place, the Sacramento Bee. Editorial comment, weeklies 4,300 and under. Second place, the Trinity Journal, Wayne R. Enger. First place, Los Baños Enterprise, Mike Dunbar. Weeklies 4,301 to 11,000. Second place, the Davis Enterprise, Sebastian Donata. First place, Del Norte Triplicate Editorial Board. Weeklies 11,001 to 25,000. Second place, Pleasanton Weekly, Gina Chanel and Jeb Bing. First place, San Francisco Business Times, Jim Gardner. Weeklies 25,001 and over. Second place, the Camarillo Acorn, Daniel Wolowitz. First place, Palo Alto Weekly, Bill Johnson. Dailies 15,000 and under. Second place, the Napa Valley Register, the Napa Valley Register staff. First place, Merced Sun Star, Mike Dunbar. Dailies 15,001 to 35,000. Second place, The Record, Mike Clockey. First place, the Tribune staff. Dailies 35,001 to 150,000. Second place, East Bay Times, Daniel Borenstein. First place, the Fresno Bee, Bill McEwen. Dailies 150,001 and over. Second place, Los Angeles Times, Michael McGough. First place, San Francisco Chronicle, John Diaz. Columns, weeklies, 4,300 and under. Second place, the Weekly Calistogan, columns by Ann Ward Ernst. First place, St. Helena Star, Yusuf Beige. Weeklies, 4,301 to 11,000. Second place, Black Voice News, Paulette Brown Hines. First place, the Sonoma Index Tribune, Jason Walsh. Weeklies, 11,001 to 25,000. Second place, Palisades News, Bob Vickery. First place, North Coast Journal, Linda Stransbury. Weeklies 25,001 and over. Second place, the Salinas Californian, Jeff Mitchell. Weeklies 25,001 and over. First place, Monterey County Weekly, Mary Dawn. Dailies 15,000 and under. Second place, the Napa Valley Register, Sammy Hartley. First place, Auburn Journal, Tricia Caspers. Dailies 15,001 to 35,000. Second place, Chico Enterprise Record, David Little. First place, the Tribune, Joe Tarica. Dailies 35,001 to 150,000. Second place, the Press Democrat, Paul Gullickson. First place, the Bakersfield, Californian, Lois Henry. Dailies 150,001 and over. Second place, Los Angeles Times, Steve Lopez. First place, San Jose Mercury News, Marcus Thompson II. Editorial Cartoon, Weeklies, all divisions. Second place, St. Helena Star, Mason McCarty. First place, Los Angeles Downtown News, Doug Davis. Dailies 35,000 and under. Second place, The Union, R.L. Crabb. First place, Marin Independent Journal, George Russell. Dailies 35,001 and over. Second place, the Fresno Bee, S.W. Para. First place, the Los Angeles Times, David Horsey. Coverage of local government, Weeklies 4,300 and under. Second place, the Trinity Journal, Amy Gittleson. First place, the Arc, Matthew Hose. Weeklies 4,301 to 11,000. Second place, Dana Point Times, Christina Pritchett. First place, Turlock Journal, Christina Hocker, Sabra Stafford, and Angelina Martin. Weeklies 11,001 to 25,000. Second place, North Bay Bohemian, Will Parrish. First place, The Almanac, Barbara Wood. Weeklies 25,001 and over. Second place, Palo Alto Weekly, Janabi Shane. First place, Thousand Oaks Acorn, and Hector McDonald. Dailies 15,000 and under. Second place, The Union, Alan Reckwalmy. First place, Ukiah Daily Journal, Justine Fredrickson and Chris Pugh. Dailies 15,001 to 35,000. Second place, The Tribune, Caitlin Leslie. First place, Ventura County Star, Mike Harris and Wendy Long. Dailies 35,001 to 150,000. Second place, the Modesto Bee, Garth Stanley. First place, the Press Democrat, Kevin McCullen. Dailies 150,001 and over. Second place, Los Angeles Times staff. First place, San Jose Mercury News, Karen Desai and Tracy Siepel. Coverage of business news, Weeklies 4,300 and under. Second place, The Recorder, Ross Todd. First place, The Recorder, Ben Hancock. Weeklies 4,301 to 11,000. Second place, The Business Journal, George Laurie. First place, Sonoma Index Tribune, Lorna Sheridan. Weeklies 11,001 to 25,000. Second place, Mountain View Voice, Mark Nowak. First place, San Francisco Business Times, Mark Colby. Weeklies 25,001 and over. Second place, Santa Barbara Independent, Tyler Hayden. First place, Los Angeles Downtown News, Eddie Kim. Dailies 15,000 and under. Second place, the Napa Valley Register, Jennifer Huffman. First place, Record Searchlight, Elena Schulman. Dailies 15,001 to 35,000. Second place, The Desert Sun, Barrett Newkirk. First place, The Desert Sun, Rosalie Murphy. Dailies 35,001 to 150,000. Second place, The Fresno Bee, Barbara Anderson. First place, The Modesto Bee, Garth Stapley. Dailies 150,001 and over. Second place, San Jose Mercury News, Lou Hansen. First place, San Francisco Chronicle, Carolyn Said and Joaquin Palomino. Coverage of education, weeklies 4,300 and under. Second place, The Arc, Matthew Hose. First place, The Cambrian, Stephen H. Provost. Weeklies 4,301 to 11,000. Second place, Big Bear Grizzly, Kathy Porty. First place, The Davis Enterprise, Tanya Perez and Felicia Alvarez. Weeklies 11,001 to 25,000. Second place, Mountain View Voice, Kevin Forestieri. First place, The Almanac, Barbara Wood. Weeklies 25,001 and over. Second place, New Times, Peter Johnson. First place, Palo Alto Weekly, Elena Kedvani. Dailies 15,000 and under. Second place, Merced Sun Star, Thaddeus Miller. Dailies 15,000 and under. First place, Auburn Journal, Tricia Caspers. Dailies 15,001 to 35,000. Second place, Marin Independent Journal, Janice Mara. First place, The Desert Sun, Kristen Wang and Robert Hopwood. Dailies 35,001 to 150,000. Second place, Los Angeles Daily News, Los Angeles Daily News staff. First place, The Fresno Bee, Rory Appleton. Dailies 150,001 and over. Second place, Los Angeles Times, Anna M. Phillips. First place, the San Diego Union Tribune, Maureen McGee. Sports Game Story, weeklies 4,300 and under. Second place, the St. Helena Star, Yusuf Beige. First place, the Gridley Herald, David Vantras. Weeklies 4,301 to 11,000. Second place, San Marino Outlook, Oscar Arliz. First place, the Davis Enterprise, Bruce Galladay. Weeklies 11,001 and over. Second place, the Camarillo Acorn, Aliev Applebaum. First place, Poway News Chieftain, Michael Bauer. Dailies 15,000 and under. Second place, Merced Sun Star, Sean Jensen. First place, Time Standard, Danny Penza. Dailies 15,001 to 35,000. Second place, Antelope Valley Press, Marissa Jensen.
Good, Marissa.
First place, Chico Enterprise Record, Nick Wilson. Dailies 35,001 to 150,000. Second place, the Press Democrat, Phil Barber. First place, the Bakersfield, California, Zach Ewing. 150,001 and over. Second place, the San Francisco Chronicle, Harry Schulman. Los Angeles Times, Mike Brennishan. Sports Feature Story, weeklies, 4,300 and under. Second place, St. Helena Star, Yusuf Beige. First place, Sierra Star, Mark Evan Smith. Weeklies, 4,301 to 11,000. Second place, San Marino Tribune, Mitch Lehman. First place, La Canada, Flint Ridge Outlook, Miriam Swanson. Weeklies, 11,001 to 25,000. Second place, Moore Park Acorn, Alia Applebaum. First place, Free Lance, Emmanuel Lee. Acorn. First place, Grunion Gazette, Mike Garabasio and J.J. Fickle. Dailies, 15,000 and under. Second place, Porterville Recorder, Naira Dusu. First place, Visalia Times, Delta and Tulare Advanced Register, Mike Hazelwood. Dailies, 15,001 to 35,000. Second place, Santa Cruz Sentinel, Jim Seamus. First place, the Desert Sun, Andrew John. Dailies, 35,001 to 150,000. Second place, the Bakersfield, California, Jeff Evans. First place, the Bakersfield, California, Zach Ewing. Dailies, 150,001 and over. Second place, the Los Angeles Times, Mike Heiserman. First place, San Francisco Chronicle, Ron Kroichik and Michael Macon. Special Sports Section, weeklies, 11,000 and under. Second place, Ledger Dispatch. First place, Mariposa Gazette. Weeklies, 11,001 and over. Second place, the Capistrano Dispatch.